morning, everyone. May I have your attention? It's 9 o'clock, and thank you for coming here once more. Such a big crowd. My name is Risto Sarvas. I'm organizing this event. Håkan is on vacation, so things are a bit more bumpy this time. For example, we don't have a microphone. Camera was difficult to find. Eventually, we did find a cable to plug the laptop into. All seems to be okay. So this morning's speaker is Karri-Pekka Laakso from that fabulous company Reaktor, which is world famous for introducing the Hello World beer. And let's leave it at that, and then Karri-Pekka, please go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to tell you a couple of more facts about Reaktor right away, but let's first see what we're going to talk about today. You'll understand this more after the show. We're going to talk about God. We're going to talk about Newton's iteration. We're going to talk about doing real work. We're going to talk about one. We're going to talk about also Zen garden. And of course we're going to talk about Cthulhu, which I hope you will appreciate after the talk. Just kind of, I hate introductions. I hate introducing myself, but the idea is that there are some points in a person's life when you that change you, that change what you will become. And for me, I guess it was when I managed to overtalk my parents to buy a computer to a family, because then some rather strange things happened. Though I have to tell you that when I came to Helsinki University of Technology, which is somewhere around here, I came to study mostly mathematics and physics. I had already forgot about computers, but the computers hadn't forgot about me. So at the halfway in my studies, I realized that everything that I thought was fun had to do with programming. And but I managed to graduate anyway out of here. And in the meantime, at this point, I bumped into something that was called user interface design. And though I have struggled for years, it became my profession. I didn't want to, but it just happened. So I did with my ex-wife some tremendous amount of hard work. We founded a company. We taught at University of Helsinki Department of Computer Science. And after all that hard work, I just got this strange idea that I could see that what happens to the user interfaces after they have been designed, what goes wrong in the implementation phase. So I just had the idea that I'm going to go and check this for a couple of months in some company. I chose this one. I'm there still. So, well, let's see about perhaps why. I was the first user interface designer at Reaktor, and I'm going to tell you 3 things that you probably don't know about Reaktor. The other ones you can check from the web. These things aren't on the web, and I think they're more important to me than anything that is on the web. So let's see who works at Reaktor. We have 17 user interface designers, 6 ADs, 5 concept designers, 1 copywriter, and about 140 people who can code magnificently. And the fact is that if you count those above the coders together, it's more people than in a small advertising agency. Or it's more people than work at, for example, Adage. So I think that's something to consider. Oh, whoa, this works. And the nice fact is that after 2005, that we had some troubles getting the user interface design in the project, but today all this stuff is part of almost every project we have. So we do real stuff. This is the second fact about Reaktor. We're commonly thought as a technology company, and that's true. We have those 140 people who are hell of a good bunch of coders. And we can produce things that perhaps can be reflected like the Porsche engine, which is, by the way, a fabulous thing. You just drive 100 kilometers an hour, and then you press down the accelerator, and what happens is something fantastic. It just goes so fast that it's going to drive 200 an hour if you don't be careful with it. The fact is, this is true, but we can do also this. And by the way, we haven't forgot about this. So just to previous things mean that that we have the possibility to build beautiful things which have a really powerful thing underneath the hood. Okay, actually this was the one thing. Now for the next thing. Who are my most important co-workers at Reaktor? They are not designers. Well, I have a designer actually. I work with Tony most of the day. He's actually the lead designer, and I'm supporting him because I'm older and he's younger in years of design. But the point is, this is my team. We work at customers' premises. They are the most important people for me at Reaktor because we work together to achieve a common goal. And as you can see, there are 4 developers. This one actually isn't from Reaktor, he's from our customer. Well, it doesn't make any difference. They are my team, we work together, and that means we produce fantastic things together. So, we are not kind of, this is just to give you the idea that my peers every day are not other designers. They're these people. And the third thing, which you probably don't know, if you've ever visited the Reaktor office at Mannerheim 2, you've noticed that it's a rather fancy place, but the point is that Reaktor is not only there. Reaktor is everywhere where we are. That means the things that I've highlighted here are things that we bought with us. We had, from the customer premises, we had walls, but there was a rather nasty linoleum floor, so we just brought in a carpet, and the fridge, and the post-its, and the tables, and the chairs, and the coffee machines. There are several one of them, and snacks. Because this is the place where we work every day. It doesn't matter. We do this all the time when we go to some customer's premises. We need to work there, so that's why we bring Reaktor with us. Because it needs to be a decent place to work. Okay, so that's the introduction. Let's talk about God. Last week, no, 2 weeks ago, Karri-Pekka talked about this feelings in user interface design. Now, and by the way, I must tell you at this point, if you have any questions, please interrupt me right away and we'll get the questions over with. Because there's no point that I'm going to talk for, say, half an hour or something like that, and you're going to ask the questions afterwards. So please ask the question right away. But anyway, okay, so the God. Karri-Pekka talked about feelings, and I'm not trying to say that I'm going to offer you another point of view, because I got the uneasy feeling that what Karri-Pekka said was that you can interpret it wrong in the way that the designer is a god. Because he creates things with his touch in some fantastic ways, and if he has a bad day, he's not going to create anything nice. Now there's a very problematic way, this is a very problematic way in my opinion to think about design, because what you need is the divine inspiration. Otherwise you won't get anything done. And that's a problem because, for example, for me, getting things done every day is absolutely paramount. I have the team waiting, they need stuff for coding. And I just can't wait for the toaster to produce this. I must do something else. And my point of view of myself, I'm not saying that Karri-Pekka's view is something else, but my point of view is more like the craftsman. That I do stuff, and there's a system, I work with things, and it's definitely nothing godlike. I mean, I'm an engineer, for heaven's sake. I'm not. I prefer this. And what I mean by a systematic method is that this is, by the way, Newton's iteration is taught in high school. You have perhaps forgotten, I haven't, I'm trained rather thoroughly in mathematics. But the basic idea is that we're trying to find this point, and what we do is we make a guess that maybe the point where this crosses the zero line is at this point. Then we notice that it isn't. We take the derivative, which crosses the x line, zero line over here, and then we guess again at this point, and then we take the derivative at that point, and so on. And it converges rather fast, actually, that point. And this is the point. This is the same way you have to do design. I mean, first you do a guess, then you have to have something that makes it better. And the point that you have something that you can evaluate your design with ensures that your design tomorrow will be better than it was yesterday. And this way you can do fantastic things. And it's very much easier than just try to make it materialize. So, let's try to apply this to service design. In the past, I was in a project where the idea was that they had this web store where they wanted to sell stuff for people who own their own company, for companies anyway. And one of the things that they wanted to sell was their product that contained, for example, email. And like if you found your own company, you need the emails, you need the common calendar, and so on. So they wanted to sell this product that they had, or rather this service, in the web store. Okay, fine. And we had to make the user interface to order that thing from the web store. And then we asked that, okay, perhaps we would need the specifications that what does this service actually mean? That what does it contain? You can understand this because in Finnish it was called kanssakäymispalvelu, which means that this can contain almost about anything between human in the field of human communication. So we got the spec. It was rather surprising. It was, let's start with the fact that it was 10 pages long, only text, no bullets. On page 3, there was some talk about a carpenter coming to your premises and trying to build a video communications room and things like this. And we were, whoa. There's no way anyone's going to buy from the web the carpenter to your premises, because the web is a place where you do self-service. I mean, you buy things that are easy to understand, and that by no means is easy to understand. So what we actually had there, the product, they thought they had this, which is kind of easy to understand and rather clear, but they had this one. And this is not a surprise. This is what happens when you try to do the things the wrong way. I mean, the wrong way, meaning that you try to start from the top and do some godlike organization of things and then drill into the details later on without ever checking what the reality actually is. But if you do things the other way around, you start from the reality and then you kind of try to build that what would we need to offer these people, these companies, then you're going to end up in totally different things. So what we understood rather soon this is not going to lead us anywhere. So we had to try to find out that, okay, if someone wants to buy email and a joint calendar, that what kind of things they actually want to do. And it turned out that this product that they had didn't support those things very well, because if you think of a small company, say they have about 5 people, and they want to buy an email service. This existing product had this feature that each time you buy an email box, you have to define the size of that email box. I mean, is it, say, 50 megabytes? This, I'm not kidding. The lowest one is 50 megabytes, and people pay money for this each month. You can, of course, I think they knew that Google offers this something like 5 gigabytes for free, but I don't know. They sold this anyway. I don't know how many. But anyway, you had to define the size of the box. And now, what is a bit problematic is what happens when someone exceeds the limit of his box. So you need to buy more space for that person. But if you've ever worked in a small company, or even in a mid-sized company, no one, absolutely no one has time to do things like this. What they want is that, could you sell us some, say, 1 terabyte of space, and as many, and we have currently these 5 email boxes. I don't think that they actually would care on the other end that how many addresses actually use that 5 terabyte space. 5 terabytes is the kind of the main selling issue here. And then when we have used, say, let's say about 80% of the space, then let's buy some more and not try to micromanage all the people with their email boxes. And now, okay, but why did they have this micromanageable thing? Well, because they had a product that was meant for big companies, and big companies like to micromanage for some reason, I don't understand why, but they want to do this for their employees, and they have employees who have the time to do this. So, we have a product which was designed for something else, and it's sold as a service in the web for other people. And notice here, this is one reason why I don't believe that there's actually a very big difference between service design and product design. Because the product is clearly, can be seen from the service behind it. It's offered as a service, but it's created with a product that has certain features. So, well, okay, so what we did is we tried to find out the absolutely minimum with which you could go into the web. And it turned out that we had to keep the fixed size email boxes and so on, but we managed to do the ordering in about, say, you just tell how many boxes and you can choose the size of each box, and then you just say, I want it. And then you get it. And no talking about the carpenter, and no talking about video communication things. If you want to ask about them, there's a box where you can write it. We'd like to discuss with you about the carpenter issue. But, I mean, no. You can't sell that stuff in the web. So, now how do we, I mean, this is, okay, let's talk about more. This wasn't a thing that we normally do, because we just kind of bumped into the project at this point in something about midway. But how do we tackle this kind of problem systematically these days? And I'm going to show you the parts that we do in almost every project and why we do them. So one thing that I don't do myself is concept design. And concept design for us means asking these questions. Where does this hurt you that you don't have the system or the service or whatever? Where's the money? Who's going to ever get a single penny out of this if this is implemented? And for whom is this system actually targeted? And if these questions cannot be asked, then we're in trouble. Because we haven't done this always in the past. For example, we did this fantastic service, which has rather nice visuals. It has a beautiful user interface and works like a charm. It has fantastic technology under it. The problem is that the customer doesn't make very much money out of this. And the reason is that no one ever realized to ask that how's actually your business model going to be behind this? And it turned out that this service, which offers materials about law, has a competitor that offers almost the same thing with a rather shitty user interface, and it doesn't work very well, but it works for free. So that was a bit problematic for their business. And the question that we should have asked, but which we didn't ask at those days, was how are you going to make money out of this? And that is a very important question, because otherwise we just make one user's service. Well, this is rather useful, but it doesn't make money for them, so they're running out of business if this is their own kind of thing that what they do. So that's the concept design. It tells us where the problem is. The user interface design, or the user experience design, or whatever you want to call this, well, anyway, what do they need, how to support it, and how should the thing which we're trying to materialize, how should it actually work, what should it offer? For me, it looks like this. I've told that, okay, we're going to go there. At the beginning of each project, it feels like this. I've got no idea absolutely where this is going to lead us, but I love it. I mean, no one's ever been there. We're going to check out how things are actually working, and we'll find out. We'll kind of extend the map. And how it's done is that, for example, when a couple of years ago when we did a user interface design for this kind of fantastic device, we didn't design the device, we designed a buy software with it, with which you can measure the pressure of the eye, which is actually a very important measure, because there's a rather nasty disease called glaucoma, which if it kind of goes undetected, it makes you blind. So what we did is that we first have to understand that how is this stuff, which you do with these things, how is it done today? And that means going there where things happen. And that means in this case, going into the hospital, going into every place where we know that these things are done. Yours truly in the white coat. And then checking, these are the papers that the doctors had, the things that they wrote down. We have to understand everything of this, because this is the way we're going to come from the bottom up. We have to understand how these people are going to use the piece of software that we are probably going to create for them. And what becomes of this, we make for ourselves notes of how things, this isn't finished, sorry, but this is internal documentation. So it's meant for us only, actually. We use this in design, so we have these cases that we know how things happen during every day, and what we are going to do next is that we're going to make a design actually based on these cases, but that doesn't matter. But the thing that does matter is the fact that this is the way how we are going to check that are we better than we were yesterday. Because we are going to try to do everything with our design that the doctor did with his current things that he had, like the paper and his current computer programs and so on. And we're going to do that every day, and we're going to do that several times. And that way we notice that there are some problems in our design, and we can fix them, and then we can make a new one, and then we try, is it better, and if it isn't, we're going to ditch it, and so on. And we do design with pen and paper, because it's the fastest way to do, for us at least. And we draw these designs, tens, and then we throw them away, because they're worth rather little, and they're easy to make. But the point is, we start from the work, and we test it with the real work scenarios several times every day. And things get better. And this is the way, this is the kind of, when I say systematic, I mean that it has this corrective function, that you test it often, and do not try to kind of come up with a design like this just from scratch. Well, I can't do that. I mean, perhaps someone can, but I can't. And that's why I have to take the work and try to kind of do the things that the doctor does with the thing piece by piece, and then this just emerges. There's no divine inspiration here. I just do the work that he does. I try to repeat it, and then things just happen. But this is not the only thing that we do at this stage. We have to do something else as well. If you try to sell a mobile subscription in the web, it's a bit problem if your product categories, products are a bit messed up. We ended up in this design that we tried to, the customer had, in this case Elisa, they had several mobile subscriptions. Actually, if we take the existing thing that we had, here they are all listed. I think there are about, I'm not sure if there's 60 or 70 or 80 of them, but as you notice, there are rather many of them. And it's a bit problematic if you go into the web and want to choose which one of these is the best for me, because you can't. There's no damn way you can choose of all the mass of these subscription types, because there's no way you can compare these in any sane way. So what we said when we were asked that we should sell the mobile subscriptions in the web, after kind of trying to do that, trying to put them all, we noticed this is impossible. There's no user interface. Actually, there's no user interface design that can cover a mess like this and make it easy for the customer, because this is not easy. And it actually turned out that there are some, if you want to compare these, now the second one from the top was actually a mobile subscription that was inferior to all the others in every case. It was useless, but someone still had bought it.
But it's called reilu.
It's called reilu, yeah. In English, that is fair. So, okay, what we did, that we simplified so that we gave a suggestion that, what about, if you want to buy a mobile subscription, what if you do it like this? You say, how many minutes I want to talk, how many text messages I want to send, how much data I want to use, and then you get the price. And they said that that's okay if you can make it into the backend system. And haha, we had this guy, he made miracles. It went in the backend system, and then no one could anymore say no. So that's what we did. And this is what must be done at this point, because the problem is that if the product or the kind of whatever the price system or whatever system lies underneath there, if it has the complexity of this, there's absolutely no amount of user interface design which is going to save this. You somehow have to manage to get things simplified, because otherwise it won't work. Oh, well, perhaps it will, but it will be tremendously difficult. And we take the responsibility of this at this stage, in addition to doing the user interface design. Okay, what next? Well, as we saw, those were kind of, we had drawings on paper, so we have to add the look and feel, and this is where we have the very much beloved graphics people, the 80s. Now this is my desk. As you can see, I have things like scissors and paper and pens and coffee and a bunny and so on. But there's, actually I don't do very much of this design work with a computer. These guys are things that change what we produce into something like this, or into something like this. I can never do this. Or if we take more mobile user interfaces, something like this, but they kind of provide the things that make it look professional, nice. I want to buy this. This is cool. So this is perhaps a more traditional one. They do other things as well. I had to pick these two because I really love them. They design skateboards for us, and for example, design things on the background of the iPad. But anyway, this is important because first when we started the user interface design thing, we kind of gave our customers this. And you know, this is going to be a bit of a problem when this is shown for the board of managers. You know, they don't understand this. The users actually do understand this very well, because they understand this is absolutely, the functionality is over here, but this has nothing to do with how does it look like. But it really is a bit more easy to show something like this to someone who wants to see that what are we going to get. Okay, so we do those things, and then we build. So from my point of view, things look like this. Concept design identifies the problem. User interface design solves it. They beautify it, and then it's built. Or, in other terms, problem, solution, look and feel, the thing. It's not. This is what we do in 2012. If you ask me after 5 years, it's probably going to be something else. I don't know, but it looks like in time, it looks something like this. So first we have the concept design, and that really ends at this, almost about this point, because after this point, it's rather often it's quite useless. Then the user interface design starts after we know that what is needed to be designed. The implementation, which involves rather a lot of work, that starts often rather early as well, but the point is you have to do some user interface design before you can start the implementation, because otherwise you don't know what you need to do. And then there's coaching, and then there's maintenance and so on. But I mean, this gives you some kind of idea. First there in goes one concept guy, then there go in some user interface designers, say one developer, and they get more developers, and then you just, the main part of the project is this. You have ongoing user interface design, you have ongoing development, and things just happen. So let's talk about one. We have the, in the last few years, it has changed in the way that for the user interface designer, at least, there should be only one team. So that means that 5 days in a week, I go and work with the same team, with the same problem. Because this is, in my experience, this has turned out to be a great deal easier than the times back in, say, 2008, when my colleague Bessie and I tried to manage all the projects with just 2 of us, and there were, I'm not sure, I'd say 5 or 6 projects per user interface designer. That's too much. It just made us crazy, because every day you have to say to someone that you have to wait, or I don't have time for you. And that is so depressing, and it's so difficult, because if you want to do good user interface design for a thing that developers are working on, you need to know where their pain is. You need to work with the developers. You need to work with the customer, and that requires time. And if you have 5 or 6 projects, in my opinion, you can't do that. Or I couldn't, perhaps someone else can. But nowadays, I'm in one team. And I won't go with 2 teams anymore. That's not going to happen. I just won't show up in the other team. So let's still talk something about systematic work. We'll talk about the wall. Not this wall, actually. This wall. So, in my opinion, if you want to do systematic work, you now have to know where you are. And this is how our implementators or developers work at my project. This is my project last week. We have these big green things. Those are big issues that need to be done before we can do this, before this one very big issue is going to be completed. And this very big issue actually means that we are going to launch this software for the users for the first time. It of course works currently to some extent, but you cannot actually really use it for any reasonable amount of work. It doesn't help them yet. But when we are at this point, when this one is ready, then it's going to help them. And what we do is we split them into big issues, and the big issues, we have one big issue under work, which is split onto small yellow issues, and these are all the small yellow issues that are a part of this big green issue, and these have all been completed. So as you can see, once we do these 2 things, we should be ready. And then we know, again, where we are. And at that point, we can decide from all of these things that what are we going to do next? Because the world may have changed. Perhaps we need to do something else. But every day, just with one look at the wall, we know where we are. There's one completed, by the way. My work's not here because it doesn't kind of follow the same rhythm. We need a bit something different. My work is on the, and Tony's work is on the other wall, but we have the same system. There we have all the questions that we have to ask someone because we do not know. It takes so much time to tell you what I'm working with that I'm not trying to concretize the questions. But, well, for example, can a person's salary actually be zero? Is it possible? We know that it cannot be negative, but can it be zero? If someone is sold to a customer, can his salary actually be bigger than the price that the customer pays? Someone knows these questions, we don't. Or what is the point where the system should somehow tell the user that, by the way, it seems like something is not correct with the salary and the price the customer pays because they are too close to one another, or the salary is actually bigger than the price that the customer pays, and so on. Well, we have all these kinds of questions that we have bumped into. They are over there. We have one big thing that we're trying to do, which is split into 4 smaller things. These are the cases that we use for testing. In this big thing, we use these 3 cases because the other ones aren't relevant. And so when these 4 are done, this big is done, and we move these cases back to where they belong and create the next big thing, and so on. So this is highly systematic, because every day that we come to work, we know that we have to solve one of these, and that tells us where we are.
Why do you have a separate wall for you?
Because this one doesn't work. This is too far away. This is 4 meters. This is, if I turn around from my desk, I can touch this on my backhand side. And we have these things that don't fit. We need these questions. We need them close to us every day because we need to pick them out of the wall rather often. We need the cases rather often. We need to remember what we are doing. And since the distance to this is, say, 4 or 5 meters, it somehow just doesn't work. Perhaps, if you ask me after 3 years, I'm going to tell you how we made it work. But currently, it didn't seem reasonable to try to put it on the same wall, for some reason. Perhaps we're too lazy. Okay. Well, this was kind of thing that I was wanting to tell you today. I'm so surprised that you are so quiet. Last Saturday, when I was giving this talk at Tampere's Agile, when I talked about rather different things, I'm not sure why you're so quiet. Perhaps I told something so controversial that you still have to figure out where we're going. But anyway, if you have any questions, let's just start to think about them. But see, here's the recap, the same slides. Don't try to be a god. Find a systematic method. Whatever you do, try to find one, because it makes life so much easier. Go to the place where the real work is done. Work with only one team, because it's so much easier for you. Try to make things that look like the Zen garden, because they are immediately understandable. They feel nice. You want to be there in order to avoid the Cthulhu. This is what so easily happens. I hope we're getting there. Southwest, it means progress. Okay, any questions?
How does project size factor into how you do your work? I mean, it looks like you have quite many people on the team. You have several UI designers as well. So if the project is really small, you really don't have so much to go around. You don't need a big wall or such. How does this?
Okay, project size. We normally work in pairs. If we take, I'm going to show you with this slide. Oh, that was. At this point, there always needs to be two, because it's so much easier to work with a pair than it's to work with alone, even in a small project. It's beneficial to have two.
Do you mean
Two user interface designs. Sometimes we can do something else as well, but it would be most beneficial to have two user interface designs. But then, at some point in the project, it's possible to give the other one away, because then there isn't so much daily work, or then the kind of I'm not sure if I don't have actually a rational explanation why it's possible at this point, but what needs to be still ensured at this point, if only one stays in the project, is that one can get support from someone else to review his designs, because otherwise you just get mixed up and things don't work so well. You can actually handle with two rather large projects. Depends on how difficult it is to code. I've had a team that had, I think, say, more than 30 people with another user interface designer, but we were really swamped up with work. So it turned out that, or it would have been most beneficial to have at that point 4. Because that needs 2 and 2, not 3. We tried 3, and it didn't work out because one's going to be kind of left out all the time. So it's best to have a parity, even amount of designs, so that you always have a pair. But I think it scales up rather well. I mean, I don't know if I answered your question, but this.
Yeah, it just crossed my mind because in the beginning you talked about the numbers of different roles in Reaktor.
Yeah.
And you have a large percentage of UI designers compared to how many. You still have a lot of developers as well, programs as well. If I think about projects or clients who I've worked with, for example, they have a large number of engineers and they have kind of a lonely designer there. Yeah. So it's a different relation.
Yeah. We had in the beginning in 2005 we had 2 user interface designers and 50 developers, and things got a lot worse in the following years because we didn't have any user interface designers more. I think that in most cases it actually is surprisingly beneficial to have a rather large amount of user interface designers with the developers, so that you don't have this, say, team of 25 people. The problem is that in most projects the question that developers do not want to ask or to find out is what to do. They know how it needs to be done. They need to fight the APIs, the back-end systems, all this kind of things. But it's very frustrating if they have to also find out that what needs to be actually done. And in that thing, the user interface designers are their best companions, because they go and find out how things really are, and then they say that based on the knowledge I've seen, this is the best guess that we're going to do, and if it's wrong, they're going to kill me and not you.
So it saves developers from having to second guess all the time.
Yeah, saves developers from guessing. Right.
Is it okay if I ask in Finnish?
Yeah.
Minkälaisen dokumentaation te annatte sille graafiselle suunnittelijalle niin, että sillä säilyy taiteellinen luomisen vapaus, mutta samalla se ei tuhoa ikään kuin käytäntöitä tai sitä käyttöliittymäsuunnitelmaa?
Okay, the question was what kind of documentation we give to the graphical designer so that they do not feel uneasy in doing what they are doing. Okay. So we give the same papers, and this guy sits right next to me. We sit in the same cluster of tables. So we give him the papers, we show how this thing works, and then, well, it really actually is rather difficult to kind of. We've been talking about at the latest moment this morning in the taxi that how are we going to make this thing work even better, because he needs to do the magic that he knows, and we need to do the magic that we know, and they kind of cross. I mean, there are things that he can do wrong from our perspective, and vice versa. So what it means that we show these papers, we have them for him, and then we discuss a lot. Like, he sits 1 meter from me. This is not a communication problem. And we talk about these things, because that's the way things are done. We do not actually believe very much in and I don't think you even meant that we would communicate with documentation, but the only thing that we have is actually the paper, these. So there's nothing else we can get to. And the team is perfectly happy with these. They can start coding with these because we show them how they work.
Okay. What about if you have to show the design to the board committee at this stage, and you said that the drawing doesn't work with the big chief. So what do you show them then?
Well, you can show them. It's not a problem if you, at the same time, if you have these, you have something like this as well, because then they kind of understand that this is the blueprint, and this is the kind of the working system. That this is what it's going to look like, but this is somehow the engineering specs or something like that. But if you have only these, then it might be somewhat problematic, but sometimes they do understand. Depends on how high they are in the organization. The higher they are, the more likely you should go with this. Because they actually, and the reason is not that they're stupid, but because they do not understand what the work is about. Because they are so high, they're thinking about different issues, and they're interested in different issues. So this kind of thing makes sense for the people who do the real work. And this kind of things make sense to people who kind of try to communicate brand or harmonize brand or do things like that. And they're not so interested in the nitty-gritty details. Okay, that's you work first.
Yeah, you showed the picture where you have the work processes.
Yeah.
You were doing a lot of implementation quite early. What are you implementing when you're still doing a lot of design at the same time?
Good question. Very good. What are we implementing when we're doing design? Well, it turns out that in almost every case, the system that you're trying to build is not coming into an empty world. Meaning that there are all these existing systems with which we need to communicate, which we need to locate, which you need to find the access to them, you need to find all this kind of stuff. And then there are things that you can do that we have some kind of a guess at what kind of system we're going to build. So you can try to do technical kind of tryouts called spikes with different types of technologies that how does this thing actually work? How could you build a system like this? And those are beneficial rather early on, and they don't need user interface design for them. Okay.
Well, you already told about the cooperation between UI designers and developers, but I'm interested to hear more about cooperation between all these different competencies, like let's say also concept design phase. You have all of them overlapping in this early stage, and how in practice, about practice, I'm interested in.
Okay, for example, yeah, the question was how we interact with all the other fields of practice, because we have this and there's rather much overlap. For example, in my project currently, we have this concept designer who had it's for this human recruitment company, Barona. This is no secret, but it's a bit difficult to tell you what the system is all about. But the idea was that we had this concept guy, Leo, who talked with, say, tens of people around Barona to find out that what are we actually trying to build here. And what he told us, which was very valuable, was that, okay, they have this old system with which they try to match the people who apply for work and the work tasks that the companies have. And this system is most needed in the part of Barna where they do construction, where they have construction workers and construction projects, because those guys or these tasks are filled on a daily basis. I mean, they kind of sell, say, from 30 to 50 people every day, whereas in the white-collar work, the cycle is that if you sell one person per week, that's rather well. So there's a huge difference, and this was, and also he told us all the names of the people that we have to talk to, because those people are the kind of the right people that know about. For example, he knows that we need the real business, so we need to go to talk to someone who actually gets the orders from the customers and sees the applicants for the work. So we already knew that here are the names, just go and check them, they are over there. And we had the, and he also kind of gave us the criteria for success. I mean, every project has different criteria of success, and sometimes they may not even have anything to do with user interfaces, and in that case user interfaces can be a problem. But he told us that what they want, what Barna wants from the system to be success, and that helps us rather a lot, because he talks with the executives and so on, and we do not need to.
Is it like you're saying that the concept designer in that example, he gave you like business requirements, and you have these business requirements, and you went to speak with professionals of certain areas, or?
Okay, yeah. The question was that did we get business requirements? Yes and no. We got them and read through them. Noticed that mostly they were probably irrelevant, and then we go check the users that what really needs to be done. But the point is that we know them. Yeah, it didn't. Those didn't help us much, because from the this is the same thing that I try to say with the top down and bottom up. If you look at a project from the management point of view, it looks different. But when we start from the bottom, it's a totally different view. So that management point of view, we need to be aware of that, because they pay for the system, and if it doesn't kind of fix their problems well, then we're going to be in trouble. But the thing is, if we fix only their problem, we actually are not going to fix their problem, because it does not fix the user's problem. And that is kind of our responsibility to fix that.
Okay, I think
We need to stop.
we need to stop,
okay.
so we can stop before it gets 10. Okay. But let's all give a big hand to Karri-Pekka. And of course, you can come and ask him and talk with him now. You're going to be around. And in next week we're going to have in 2 weeks, Janne Toivola speaking from that other fabulous company called Futurize, which is famous for the Futu beer. So anyway.
Future radio.
And that as well. Okay, thanks again, and thanks for coming. See you in 2 weeks.